CEO panics without a French translator until the janitor's 7-year-old daughter takes control and saves his $1 million meeting from disaster. And what he discovers shocks everyone at the meeting. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The text message seemed to burn through Michael Harrison's phone screen like acid through steel. His hands trembled as he read the words again, hoping somehow they would change. Mr. Harrison, terribly sorry. Severe food poisoning. Cannot translate today. In emergency room. Thomas, no, no, no. Michael's voice echoed through the empty boardroom of Harrison Industries' 42nd floor, his usual composure shattering like glass against concrete. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan buzzed with its usual frenetic energy, completely oblivious that a corporate empire was about to crumble. In exactly 2 hours, Jacques Dubois and Pierre Laurent would walk through those gleaming glass doors. These weren't ordinary investors. They were the gatekeepers to an $800 million venture capital fund that could transform healthcare across Europe. Their reputation preceded them like a storm front. They spoke only French during business meetings, no exceptions. It was their way of separating the truly prepared from the merely ambitious. Michael had spent 18 grueling months courting this single meeting. 18 months of dawn conference calls across time zones. Meticulously crafted proposals revised dozens of times, and sleepless nights perfecting his pitch for revolutionary software that could diagnose diseases with unprecedented accuracy. Without their backing, his breakthrough technology would remain nothing more than brilliant code-gathering digital dust. Rachel Martinez burst through the mahogany doors, her usually immaculate composure fractured with panic. Sir, I've contacted every translation service in the tri-state area. Everyone who speaks French is either booked solid, sick, or unreachable on such short notice. Michael loosened his silk tie, feeling it constrict around his throat like a noose. At 55, he had built his empire from nothing, starting with a cramped garage startup and transforming it into a $200 million corporation through sheer determination and countless 16-hour days. This moment would either catapult him into the billionaire stratosphere or watch everything he'd built collapse into ruins. There has to be someone, Rachel. What about the universities? The French consulate? Columbia's French department is closed for faculty meetings until tomorrow. The French consulate referred us back to the same translation services that are unavailable. Rachel's voice cracked with desperation. Sir, perhaps we could postpone. Absolutely not. Michael's blood turned to ice water. Dubois made it crystal clear. Today or never. They fly back to Paris on the red-eye tonight. This is our only shot. He pressed his palms against the polished mahogany conference table, where 20 careers hung in the balance, where families depended on his decisions for their mortgages, their children's education, their futures. The elevator chimed softly in the distance, a sound that usually meant nothing but today felt like a death knell. But Michael Harrison had no idea that salvation was about to arrive in the most unexpected form imaginable. The soft humming drifted through the marble corridors like a melody from another world, causing Michael to pause mid-pace. Someone was singing in French, not the stilted classroom variety, but flowing natural French with perfect pronunciation. Frère Jacques, dormez-vous, dormez-vous. The voice was small, pure, and unmistakably fluent. Michael's heart nearly stopped. He rushed toward the sound, Rachel's designer heels clicking frantically behind him as they navigated the labyrinthine hallways that had witnessed countless corporate victories and defeats. Around the corner they discovered her. A little girl no more than 7 years old sat cross-legged beside a janitor's cart that dwarfed her tiny frame. Her dark curls were pulled back with a faded pink elastic, and her clothes, a well-worn blue dress that spoke of careful maintenance despite modest means, and scuffed white sneakers with mismatched shoelaces, told a story of a family making every dollar count. She was organizing cleaning supplies with methodical precision that belonged to someone 3 times her age, all while singing effortlessly in French pronunciation that would have impressed professors at the Sorbonne. "Excuse me," Michael said gently, kneeling to her eye level on the cold marble. His voice was soft, afraid he might startle this unexpected miracle. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl looked up with intelligent brown eyes that seemed far too wise for someone who should still believe in fairy tales. There was something almost luminous about her gaze, as if she could see straight through to people's souls. "I'm Sophie Rodriguez," she said, with a shy smile that illuminated her entire face. "My papa works here fixing things. He's down in the basement repairing the main electrical panel, so I'm helping organize his supplies while he handles the complicated stuff." Michael's mind raced faster than a Wall Street trading algorithm. Could this be real? Could salvation truly come in such an innocent package? "Sophie, that beautiful song you were singing, do you speak French?" Sophie's face absolutely radiated with pride. "Oui, bien sûr. My mama taught me before she went to heaven 2 years ago." She was from Quebec and always said French was the language of her heart, where her soul felt most at home. We used to read together every night. Fairy tales, adventure stories, even business newspapers when I got older. Her smile faltered slightly at the memory, then brightened with resilient determination. "Papa says I should keep practicing every day, so Mama would be proud of me from heaven." Rachel gasped audibly, pressing her manicured hand to her chest. Michael felt a surge of hope so powerful it threatened to knock him backward. "Sophie," he said carefully, hardly daring to believe, "how well do you speak French? Could you have actual conversations with important grown-ups from France?" "Oh, yes," Sophie nodded enthusiastically, her ponytail bouncing. "I watch French cartoons online every morning before school, and I practice conversation with Mrs. Chen from apartment 4B. She lived in Paris for 20 years working at a fancy hotel, and she says my accent is magnifique." She pronounced the last word with perfect French inflection. Michael exchanged a meaningful look with Rachel, both recognizing they might be witnessing something miraculous. "Sir," Rachel whispered urgently, checking her diamond-studded watch. "They'll be here in exactly 90 minutes." Sophie tilted her head curiously, studying Michael's worried expression with the intuitive understanding that children possess. "Are you in trouble, Mr. Harrison? Michael Harrison. And yes, sweetheart, we're in quite a predicament. Papa always says when people look as worried as you do right now, they really need someone to help them solve their problems." Michael's throat tightened with emotion. Here was this precious child, innocent as fresh snow, offering to help complete strangers. "Sophie, honey, we have some very important visitors coming from France. They only speak French, and our translator got sick. Could you possibly help us talk to them?" Sophie's eyes grew wide with excitement. "Really? You want me to help with something super important?" She jumped to her feet, barely reaching Michael's waist. "I promise I'll do my very, very best. Mama always said helping others was the most important thing we could do, and that kindness was the greatest treasure anyone could give away. Sophie, we need to prepare you for something very serious," Michael said, his voice trembling with desperate hope and paralyzing terror. The weight of 200 employees' livelihoods pressed down on his shoulders. Sophie straightened her small frame with determination that would have impressed military generals. "Don't worry, Mr. Harrison. Mama used to tell me that when people seem scary on the outside, it's usually because they've forgotten how to be happy inside. Maybe I can help them remember." Rachel rushed to her mahogany desk and returned with thick papers covered in complex financial terminology. "Sophie, These are complicated business words they might use. Can you understand these? Sophie took the papers with reverence, handling them like precious manuscripts. Her lips moved silently as she read, brow furrowed in concentration. Michael watched in amazement as her face gradually brightened. "Oh, these are actually pretty easy," she exclaimed. "Investissement means investment. Bénéfices means profits. Contrat means contract. And stratégie commerciale means business strategy." Mama and I used to play word games with her business magazines from the bank where she worked. She said learning was like treasure hunting. Every new word was a precious gem. Michael's eyebrows shot up. "Your mother worked at a bank?" "She was super smart about money. She worked at Royal Bank of Montreal for 8 years before she met Papa and moved to New York." Sophie's voice filled with pride. "She used to tell me stories about helping families buy their first houses and helping dreamers start companies. She always said understanding money was important for survival, but understanding people's dreams was infinitely more important for truly living." Rachel knelt beside Sophie, gently smoothing her simple dress. "Honey, these are very powerful men who control enormous amounts of money. They might ask difficult questions to test your French skills." Sophie nodded with serious understanding. "That's okay. When I was scared about starting first grade, Mama taught me something special. She said when people test you, they're not trying to be mean. They're trying to see if you're strong enough for something important. And I know I'm strong because Mama taught me to be brave." Michael felt overwhelming emotion threaten his professional composure. This extraordinary child possessed wisdom that most adults never achieved. But the crushing weight of responsibility was destroying him. If Sophie made one mistake, if the investors dismissed her as a distraction, his life's work would collapse. 200 employees would lose their jobs before Christmas. Years of research would be wasted. Dreams would die. "Sophie," he said gently, meeting her eyes, "I need you to understand something very serious. If this meeting doesn't go perfectly, many good people might lose their jobs before the holidays. That wouldn't be your fault. It would be mine for not being prepared. But I want you to know exactly how important this is." Sophie looked up with those impossibly wise brown eyes. "Mr. Harrison, are you feeling afraid right now?" The question hit him like a physical blow. In 40 years of business, no one had ever asked so directly. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm terrified." Sophie reached up and took his large, calloused hand in her tiny, soft one. "It's okay to feel afraid sometimes." Mama was really scared when doctors told her she was sick, but she explained that being afraid just means something matters to you very much. That's not bad. That's actually love showing itself. The elevator chimed with the finality of Judgment Day. Michael straightened his tie one final time, hands trembling, as Sophie stood beside him in the vast boardroom. She had insisted on changing into her best dress, a simple yellow sundress with tiny white flowers that her father had carefully pressed, along with polished black church shoes. Her hair was now neatly braided with a small yellow ribbon. "Remember, Sophie," Michael whispered, "just translate exactly what they say to me and what I say to them." Sophie nodded solemnly, hands clasped like a diplomat preparing for peace negotiations. "Don't worry, Mr. Harrison. I won't let you down. Mama always said when someone trusts you with something important, you protect that trust like precious diamonds." The elevator doors opened with a soft whisper, and Michael's world shifted forever. Jacques Dubois entered first, a tall, impeccably dressed man in his early 60s, with distinguished silver hair and commanding presence. His navy Armani suit probably cost more than most families spent on groceries in 6 months, and his steel gray eyes held the cold calculation of someone who had destroyed companies with a dismissive wave. Behind him, Pierre Laurent moved with predatory grace, younger but with an even more fearsome reputation. Financial magazines called him the executioner, for his ability to dissect failed pitches with surgical precision. Their eyes immediately fell on Sophie, and Michael watched in horror as their expressions shifted from confusion to barely contained outrage. "Monsieur Harrison," Jacques said in heavily accented English, tone cold enough to freeze water, "qu'est-ce que c'est exactement? What is this child doing in our business meeting?" "We came to discuss $800 million in serious investment, not to play games with children." Michael's mouth opened to offer desperate explanations, but then something miraculous happened. Sophie stepped forward with quiet dignity that would have made royalty bow in acknowledgement. Her chin raised with confidence befitting someone addressing the United Nations. "Bonjour, Monsieur Dubois. Bonjour, Monsieur Laurent," she said in absolutely flawless French, voice clear as crystal bells. "Je suis Sophie Rodriguez, et je serai votre interprète professionnel aujourd'hui. J'espère sincèrement que vous avez trouvé votre hôtel confortable et que votre vol s'est bien passé. C'est un honneur de faire votre connaissance." The transformation was instantaneous and magical. Both powerful men's eyebrows shot up in complete shock, mouths falling open in amazement. Sophie had just greeted them in perfect Parisian French, introduced herself as their professional interpreter, inquired about their flight and hotel, and expressed honor at meeting them, all with sophisticated grace of a seasoned diplomat. Pierre leaned toward Jacques, whispering rapidly in French, unaware their every word was understood. "Mon Dieu, did you hear that accent? It's absolutely flawless. Better than most professional translators we've used in 20 years. Where could this extraordinary child have possibly learned to speak like this?" Sophie turned to Michael with a gentle, reassuring smile. "Mr. Harrison, Mr. Laurent just expressed amazement at my French accent and asked where I learned to speak so well. He seems very pleasantly surprised." "Messieurs, please make yourselves comfortable," Michael said, gesturing toward the polished conference table. As the visitors settled into luxurious leather chairs, Sophie climbed gracefully onto a seat that dwarfed her tiny frame, legs dangling freely. She looked like a child playing dress-up, yet there was something genuinely regal about her natural composure. "Monsieur Harrison," Jacques began in rapid French, tone now considerably warmer, "we must admit we have never conducted business with such a remarkably young interpreter. Please tell us, how did you discover this extraordinary child?" Sophie translated with smooth, professional confidence. Michael felt protective pride surge through him as he answered carefully. "Sophie is the daughter of one of our most valued employees. When our translator became ill at the last moment, she courageously volunteered to help. I've learned that true talent often appears in unexpected places, and wisdom frequently comes from the purest hearts." As Sophie relayed his words in elegant French, Michael watched both intimidating men nod with approval. Something fundamental was shifting in their demeanor, a softening he had never witnessed in years of dealing with ruthless European investors. Michael activated the massive presentation screen, displaying technology that represented years of research and development. "Gentlemen, I would like to show you why our revolutionary AI healthcare platform will transform medical care across Europe and save thousands of lives." For the next hour, something truly magical unfolded. Sophie didn't simply translate words, she transformed the entire meeting dynamic. When Michael explained complex technical concepts about machine learning algorithms, she found ways to make them crystal clear in French. When Jacques asked detailed questions about data privacy and GDPR compliance, Sophie's translations were so precise that Michael found himself explaining concepts better than ever before. But her contribution went far beyond linguistic skills. Sophie's innocent presence changed the emotional atmosphere, like morning sunshine melting winter frost. Her genuine enthusiasm for life-saving technology. Her pure excitement when Michael explained how the software could help doctors diagnose diseases faster and more accurately. It all infected the sterile boardroom with warmth no professional translator could have provided. This revolutionary algorithm, Michael explained passionately, pointing to complex charts, can analyze medical imaging 40 times faster than traditional methods, potentially catching cancers in their earliest, most treatable stages when patients have the greatest chance of recovery. Sophie translated faithfully, then added something spontaneous that made both investors lean forward with intense interest. Monsieur, Harrison's amazing computer can help doctors find sickness before it grows too big to fight. Like, if doctors had found my mama's sickness sooner, maybe she would still be here teaching me new French words and reading bedtime stories. The room fell into profound silence, except for soft clock ticking. Michael's chest tightened as he realized Sophie had just delivered the most powerful argument of his entire presentation. Golden afternoon sun streamed through massive windows, casting dramatic shadows as the meeting entered its most crucial phase. Michael had presented every detail, answered dozens of technical questions, and watched Sophie handle every challenge with remarkable grace. But now came the moment he'd been dreading, the brutal financial negotiations that would determine whether his dreams would flourish or die. Monsieur Harrison, Jacques said, tone becoming serious, your technology is genuinely impressive, and your presentation has been absolutely unexpected in the most wonderful way. However, we must now discuss investment terms. Sophie translated perfectly, and Michael felt his stomach clench. This was where promising deals historically collapsed, in the cold mathematics of risk assessment and return calculations. We typically invest no more than $50 million in first-round funding for platforms like yours, Pierre continued in French, and we require 40% equity ownership plus significant operational control over European activities. Michael's heart sank. 50 million wouldn't be nearly enough for proper European launch, and surrendering 40% would mean losing control of his life's work. Before he could respond, Sophie raised her small hand with quiet confidence. Excusez-moi, monsieur, she said with polite respect. May I please ask you both a personal question? Both men looked surprised but nodded with curious interest. When you were little boys, exactly like I'm a little girl right now, Sophie continued in French with wisdom beyond her years, did you ever have a dream so big it scared you? But you knew deep in your hearts that if you could make it come true, it would help lots of people who were hurting? Jacques and Pierre exchanged meaningful glances, clearly not expecting such profound philosophy from their 7-year-old interpreter. I did have such a dream, Jacques admitted slowly, voice soft with memory. I wanted to build schools in my impoverished village. Everyone said I was too young, too poor, too foolish to dream so big. And did you make your dream come true? Sophie asked, eyes bright with genuine interest. Eventually, yes, but it required many difficult years and many special people who believed in impossible dreams when no one else would. Sophie turned to Pierre with the same earnest attention. What about you, Monsieur Laurent? Pierre's stern expression melted completely. I wanted to create a modern hospital in my struggling hometown. Doctors there had no advanced equipment, and people died who could have been saved. Did you make your dream come true too? Yes, precious child. It's been operating for 15 years and has saved thousands of lives. Sophie nodded thoughtfully, processing this information with judicial seriousness. Then she looked at Michael with complete trust. Mister, Harrison's dream is exactly like yours were, she said, switching to French with passionate conviction. He wants to help doctors save people like my beloved mama. But dreams this big need true friends who understand how meaningful they are, not just business partners who only count money. She turned back to the investors with moral authority that only pure innocence can carry. My mama used to say that when you find someone with a good heart and a dream that could help the world, you don't just give them some help. You give them enough help to make the dream completely real. Because some dreams are too important to let fail. The silence stretched like eternity, broken only by soft clock ticking and distant Manhattan traffic 42 floors below. Jacques and Pierre sat motionless, staring at Sophie with expressions transformed from skeptical calculation to something approaching wonder. Finally, Jacques cleared his throat, voice thick with emotion. Mademoiselle Sophie, in 30 years of international business, no one has ever made us remember why we first started investing in dreams instead of just pursuing profits. Pierre nodded slowly, eyes suspiciously bright. We began our careers wanting to change the world and help brilliant innovators bring their visions to life, not simply to accumulate wealth. Somewhere along the journey, we forgot that noble purpose. Sophie translated faithfully, though Michael could see she didn't fully grasp the magnitude of what was unfolding. Monsieur Harrison, Jacques continued, rising with ceremonial dignity. After careful consideration and this child's remarkable wisdom, we have reached our decision. We will invest $200 million in your revolutionary company. Michael's legs nearly gave out. 200 million, 4 times what he had dared hope for in his wildest dreams. But Jacques wasn't finished. However, we want only 20% equity, not our typical 40%. This precious angel has reminded us that some dreams are too important to own. They must be shared with the world. Sophie's eyes grew wide as she translated the incredible news. Mr. Harrison, they want to give you $200 million. That's enough to help doctors everywhere. But then Jacques raised his hand, and Michael's soaring heart stopped. There was always a catch. However, we do have one absolutely non-negotiable condition. Michael held his breath. We want Mademoiselle Sophie to become our official youth ambassador for this project. When we launch across Europe, we want her to speak about why this technology matters. The world needs to hear from someone who truly understands that behind every innovation are real people, real families, real hearts, broken by loss. Sophie's mouth fell open. Mr. Harrison, they want me to be an ambassador. That sounds incredibly important. Michael knelt beside her chair, voice choked with emotion. Sophie, sweetheart, do you understand what just happened? These generous men want to give us enough money to help doctors worldwide save lives. Entirely because of you, your pure heart, your natural kindness, and your gift for bringing out the best in people. Sophie's face glowed with pride, but then grew thoughtful. Mr. Harrison, what exactly does an ambassador do? An ambassador travels to different countries and tells people about important things. You would help us explain to doctors and families how our technology can prevent other children from losing their parents the way you lost your mama. Sophie's eyes filled with joyful tears. You mean I could help make sure other little girls don't have to say goodbye to their mamas? Yes, precious sweetheart. That's exactly what it means. Pierre leaned forward, speaking gently in French. But there's something else, little princess. Part of our investment will establish an educational scholarship fund specifically for you, covering everything from elementary school through university, including prestigious schools in France if you choose. As Sophie translated this earth-shaking news, her small voice trembled. Mr. Harrison, they want to pay for all my education, everything, even college. Michael felt tears streaming as he nodded. Sophie, these wonderful men want to transform your entire life. You'll attend the finest schools in the world, maybe even study in Paris if that's your dream. The elevator chimed softly, and Carlos Rodriguez stepped out carrying his worn toolbox, work clothes dusty from basement repairs. He was a small, wiry man in his late 30s, with calloused hands that spoke of honest labor, and eyes holding quiet dignity of someone who took pride in his work despite modest circumstances. "Sophie," he called in accented English, looking around the empty hallway with growing concern. "Mija, where are you?" "Papa!" Sophie's voice rang out from the boardroom, followed by rapid clicking of small shoes against marble. She burst through glass doors and launched herself into her father's arms with missile enthusiasm. "Papa, you won't believe what happened. I helped save Mr. Harrison's company, and now I'm going to be an ambassador, and they're going to pay for me to go to school. Maybe even in France like Mama always talked about." Carlos held his daughter tightly, weathered face creased with confusion as he tried to process her rapid-fire explanation. "Slow down, Mija. What are you talking about?" Michael approached carefully, aware he was about to change this man's entire world. "Mr. Rodriguez, I'm Michael Harrison, CEO of this company. Your daughter just accomplished something absolutely miraculous." Carlos set Sophie down gently, expression guarded with weariness, of someone who had learned that when wealthy people took interest in his family, it usually meant trouble. "What kind of miracle, sir?" "Papa," Sophie interjected, switching to rapid Spanish. "The Frenchmen came for an important meeting, but their translator got sick. I helped Mr. Harrison talk to them in French, and now they want to give him money to help doctors save people like Mama." Carlos's eyes widened in shock. He had always known Sophie was special. Maria had insisted on teaching her French from the time she could speak, claiming their child had a gift that shouldn't be wasted. But this... Jacques and Pierre emerged from the boardroom, having overheard the conversation. Pierre stepped forward, addressing Carlos in careful English. "Mr. Rodriguez, your daughter is extraordinary. She has just helped facilitate the largest business deal of our careers." "She saved my company," Michael added, voice thick with gratitude. "Without Sophie, I would have lost everything." Carlos looked between these powerful men and his small daughter, struggling to comprehend how his little girl had become the center of such momentous events. "I don't understand." "Sophie is just a child." "Papa," Sophie said softly, taking his rough hand in her small one. "Remember what Mama used to say, that God sometimes uses the smallest people to do the biggest things. I think today was one of those times." Carlos knelt to Sophie's level, eyes searching her face. "Mija, what exactly did you do?" "I translated for Mr. Harrison when the Frenchmen came. They were going to give him money to make a computer program that helps doctors, but their translator got sick. So I helped them talk to each other." Sophie's voice grew more excited. "And Papa, they want me to travel and tell people about helping sick people, and they want to pay for me to go to the best schools." Carlos felt his world tilting. Since Maria's death, he had worked 3 jobs to make ends meet, lying awake nights worrying about Sophie's future, about how he could possibly afford the education her brilliant mind deserved. "Mr. Rodriguez," Jacques said gently, "we would like to offer your daughter opportunities that could change her life forever, but only with your permission and blessing." Carlos looked at his daughter, this precious gift Maria had left him, and saw her mother's intelligence shining in those wise brown eyes. Maria had always said Sophie was destined for something special, something far beyond their circumstances. "What kind of opportunities?" he asked quietly. "A full educational scholarship through university," Michael explained. "The finest schools available. And when she's older, if she chooses, a role as our ambassador helping promote life-saving medical technology worldwide." Carlos felt tears welling. This was everything Maria had dreamed for their daughter. Everything they had prayed for during those long hospital nights. "Papa," Sophie whispered, "this is how I can help other families not lose their mamas. This is how I can make Mama proud." Carlos pulled his daughter close, voice breaking. Mija, your mama is already proud. She's been proud of you every single day since she went to heaven. Chapter 9. The Legacy Unfolds. 6 months later, the renovated Dubois Children's Hospital in Lyon, France, buzzed with anticipation. The auditorium was filled to capacity with doctors, investors, medical researchers, and journalists from around the world. Morning sun streamed through carefully preserved stained glass windows, casting rainbow patterns across faces filled with expectation. All eyes focused on the small figure standing confidently at the podium. Sophie Rodriguez, now 8 years old, wore a simple blue dress her father had carefully pressed that morning. Her dark hair was braided with the same yellow ribbon from that life-changing meeting, and around her neck hung the delicate gold locket containing her mother's photograph. "Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs," Sophie began, her voice clear and strong as it echoed through the sophisticated sound system. "My name is Sophie, and I want to tell you a story about miracles." In the front row, Carlos sat with tears already streaming down his weathered face. Beside him, Michael Harrison fidgeted nervously, still amazed that this extraordinary child had not only saved his company, but become his closest partner in revolutionizing pediatric medicine. Catherine and Jacques Dubois sat nearby, faces glowing with pride for this remarkable girl who had brought their family back together while teaching them the true meaning of wealth. 6 months ago, Sophie continued, switching effortlessly between French and English, I was just a little girl whose mama had gone to heaven and whose papa worked very hard to take care of me. I thought miracles only happened in fairy tales and Bible stories. She paused, scanning the audience with those wise brown eyes that had captivated world leaders and medical professionals alike. But then I learned that miracles happen every day when people choose to use their gifts to help others instead of just helping themselves. Sophie gestured toward the massive screen displaying real-time data from the hospital's revolutionary AI system, operational for 3 months. This computer program that Mr. Harrison created doesn't just analyze medical information. It sees every child who comes through these doors as someone's precious son or daughter. It works day and night to catch diseases early, so families don't have to say goodbye the way I said goodbye to my mama. A collective murmur of emotion rippled through the audience as the screen showed remarkable statistics. A 47% increase in early disease detection, a 33% reduction in treatment time, and most importantly, dozens of young lives already saved. But the real miracle, Sophie said, her voice growing stronger, isn't the technology. The real miracle is what happens when people remember that love is more powerful than money, that kindness is more valuable than profit, and that sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest hands. She held up her tiny hands, and laughter mixed with tears throughout the auditorium. When I first met the French gentleman who became my grand-uncle Jacques and Monsieur Laurent, they were thinking like businessmen. But when they started thinking like people who remembered their own dreams, everything changed. They didn't just invest money, they invested their hearts. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word from this remarkable child who spoke with ancient wisdom. My mama used to tell me that heaven isn't a place you go when you die. It's a place you create when you live by loving others more than yourself. Sophie paused, looking up toward the beautiful stained glass windows. And I think Mama can see that we've built a little piece of heaven right here. She gestured toward a group of children in wheelchairs near the front, young patients who had specifically asked to attend her speech. Their faces were bright with hope and joy, living proof of lives already transformed by medical advances housed within these walls. To the doctors here today, when you use this technology to save a child, you're not just treating a patient. You're protecting someone's dreams, someone's future, someone's reason for believing in miracles. Her voice softened as she looked directly at her father. To Papa, who taught me that honest work and love are the greatest treasures anyone can possess. Thank you for showing me that being rich means having enough to share, not having enough to hoard." Carlos stood spontaneously, applauding through his tears, and the entire auditorium erupted in thunderous recognition. "And to every person here today," Sophie concluded, raising her voice above the applause, "remember that miracles aren't rare magical events. Miracles happen every time someone chooses compassion over competition, every time someone sees potential instead of problems, and every time someone decides that other people's happiness matters as much as their own." She stepped back from the podium, then returned for one final thought. "Oh, and one more thing," she said with a mischievous smile that reminded everyone she was still just 8 years old. "If anyone ever tells you that you're too small to make a big difference, just remember that I was 7 years old when I helped change the world. Size doesn't matter when your heart is big enough." As Sophie walked off the stage to a standing ovation that lasted 10 full minutes, Michael realized that this child hadn't just saved his company or revolutionized pediatric medicine. She had reminded an entire world that the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or money. It's the pure, unshakable belief that every life matters and every dream deserves a chance to come true. Later that evening, as Sophie sat in her father's lap in their hotel room overlooking the lights of Lyon, she asked quietly, "Papa, do you think Mama would be proud of what we did?" Carlos held his daughter close, heart overflowing with love and pride. "Mija, your mama isn't just proud. She's absolutely radiating with joy in heaven, knowing that her little girl took all the love she gave you and multiplied it into love for the whole world." Sophie smiled sleepily, clutching her mother's locket. "I think tomorrow I want to visit the children's ward and read French stories to the kids who are getting better. Mama always said the best medicine was knowing someone cared about you." And in that moment, Carlos knew that despite all the money, fame, and opportunity that had transformed their lives, his daughter's heart remained exactly what it had always been: pure, generous, and completely focused on healing a broken world, one small act of love at a time. The story of Sophie Rodriguez had become more than a business success or a medical breakthrough. It had become a testament to the extraordinary power that exists within ordinary moments, waiting for someone brave enough, kind enough, and small enough to unlock it and share it with the world.